Okay, so we have some breaking news stories in this video today, starting with Mayor Brandon Johnson out of Chicago. He's losing it because President Trump has signaled that he will send National Guard troops to the city. Secondly, Abrigo Garcia, the illegal alien criminal, by the way, has been released from federal custody. You got to hear what's going to happen next. In all of these stories, we'll show you what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
Fox News has obtained documents showing some 1,700 National Guard troops are heading to 19 states over the next few weeks as the Trump administration continues its crackdown on crime and illegal immigration. Lucas Tomlinson is live at the White House with the latest. Hi, Lucas.
Good afternoon, Rich. And the Pentagon says there's already more than 2,000 National Guard soldiers on the streets of D.C. And President Trump says yesterday more could be going to other big cities very soon. For context, Rich, last year the murder rate in D.C. was on par with Chicago and nearly 4 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 6 times higher than New York. Earlier, Congressman Pat Fallon says D.C. needs cleaning up. As you mentioned off the top, Rich, 1,700 National Guard members will also be deployed to 19 states. That's less than 100 per state. The White House says they will help DHS with clerical support for processing illegal aliens at ICE facilities.
Okay, so a couple of things you need to know about this announcement. Number one, the president has not formally announced or issued an executive order deploying National Guard troops to Chicago. What's happening is they are obviously considering it and figuring a way out legally to get it done. Because remember, his authority in Washington, D.C. is different than other cities like Chicago, but it's something that should be done, in my opinion. Now, just to show you the delusional pushback from this potential move from the president is right here on the screen. Breaking: a Democrat in Chicago was carjacked, had her arm broken by the assailant, then used the moment to virtual signal about not wanting President Trump or the National Guard in Chicago to clean up the city. Here it is. Dear President Trump, I've been carjacked in Chicago with my arm broken. I still don't want you or your troops here. TIA, by the way, there are no red hats here. She even uploaded a photo of herself there. Okay, so now let me take you to what the mayor of Chicago had to say, Brandon Johnson, as National Guard troops could be deployed there as soon as next week. Take a listen.
What the president is claiming that he wants troops to do, they don't even have the authority to do it. They have no arresting powers.
The mayor responding to President Donald Trump, who said he'll be expanding National Guard deployments to cities other than Washington.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
The president's Oval Office comments come as Chicago police data shows overall crime since the first of the year is down 13% compared to the same period last year, and violent crime is down 23%.
I think he wants to provoke violence, because if he can provoke violence, then it's going to be martial law.
Turning the federal military on American citizens is a sign of authoritarianism.
Yeah, see, that's the type of response you would expect from Democrats. Now, before we go any further, if you guys have been getting value from our channel or this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you do want to support what we do further, go to the links in the description below and shop our merch store. We have new designs releasing every week, and you can buy us a cup of coffee. Okay, so this actually takes us to the heart of the debate. If the president of the United States deployed National Guard troops with rifles in the streets of American cities in an effort to crack down on crime and support the local law enforcement agencies, is this an act of authoritarianism, or is this an act of supporting law and order or enforcing law and order in these cities to keep Americans safe? Do you think this is a violation of people's constitutional rights? These are all questions that definitely need to be answered, because I believe what's going to happen here is people will emotionally react to the news because mainstream media will obviously report it in a very biased way. They won't do the research, and they're going to think that President Trump is doing something wrong, and they never bothered to read the actual law. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are about that question I asked in the comments section below.
The president claiming many in Chicago want the Guard.
Screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago.
Thank you, President Donald Trump, for hearing us.
Zoe Lee and Daniel Carter Walters founded the conservative group Chicago Flips Red and says despite CPD's numbers, many don't feel safe.
And if the Democrat Party, only thing they can do to help us is tell us crime is down, then hey, we welcome the National Guard.
Okay, so if you answered the question about the constitutional authority, let's actually talk about the scenarios where President Trump can actually do this. Okay, I'm going to talk about two, show you a clip, and then I'll talk about the other two. Scenario number one would be he would do everything and stop short of actually deploying National Guard troops. What this would look like is him increasing the presence of FBI agents, ATF, marshals, federal agencies of the like, because it does not require the consent of the governor. Okay, so that's scenario number one. Scenario number two would be to actually deploy National Guard troops, but only in the capacity to protect federal property, which he has the ability to do so, again, without the consent of the governor. And just their presence alone might actually decrease crime, because when you see National Guard troops outside and an increased presence of FBI law enforcement officials, I mean, that alone already starts to make people think twice. Now, let me show you this clip from MSDNC because they're already losing their mind over this. Take a listen.
Congressman, let's switch gears to the National Guard troops that are here in Washington, D.C., also from about 6 or 7 Republican states. So there are almost 2,000 National Guard troops. We also now know that the Secretary of Defense signed an order to allow the National Guard to carry guns while they are here. And the president is threatening to replicate this in other cities like New York, Chicago, Oakland. Gee, what do they all have in common? Black mayors. So is there anything that Democrats can do or Americans can do to push back against what the president is doing? Because he says that what he's doing here in Washington is because crime is so out of control. But what he's actually doing, I think, is obliterating the guardrails and the bounds so that he has basically an occupying force here in Washington to stay in power.
All right, so it's no secret that this summer has been brutal, not just hot, historic. Flash flood warnings are at a 40-year high, and it's exactly the kind of thing My Patriot Supply has been warning people about. We've seen towns completely underwater, roads washed out, whole communities cut off from supplies. And hurricane season hasn't even hit its peak yet. In every one of those disasters, what do you see? Lines of people waiting for food, waiting for clean water, waiting for help that may not come at all. The system tells you that help is on the way, but the brutal truth is this: they can barely handle one emergency at a time. And that's why I'm not willing to gamble with my safety or my family's, for that matter, on a promise that might not be kept. That's why I'm stocked up with My Patriot Supply. And right now, when you get their 3-month emergency food kit, they'll throw in a free 4-week kit. That's 4 extra weeks of food for free. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Devori and get prepared today. Again, that's mypatriotsupply.com/Devori. If you do have a friend or family member who watches MSDNC, I'm telling you, they're going to say one or two things. One, that President Trump is only doing this because he wants to stay in control and never leave the White House. Or two, he's targeting cities that are controlled by black mayors. Now, it's not the president's fault that the top cities with the highest homicide rates are controlled by black leadership. That's not his fault. His mission is to keep Americans safe, and that's what he's trying to accomplish here. Now, let's continue on with the scenarios that are at his disposal to deploy National Guard troops. Scenario number 3 would be the governor consent, the governor actually asking for the National Guard's help. Now, that's not going to happen in our current political landscape. I just can't see that happen unless it was a natural disaster that took place. And scenario number 4, which is probably the most controversial one, is if he was to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is what he did also in Los Angeles. And in order for him to do so and have the legal authority to do so, not only would the local police department have to be overwhelmed with definitive proof of that, but federal buildings would need to be destroyed and vandalized in the process. Okay, so now I have Ro Khanna reacting to this. Take a listen.
Talk me off the grassy knoll if you think I'm wrong.
Well, Jonathan, you're absolutely right. So much for Republicans believing in local control, so much for them believing in federalism. It seems like the job that Donald Trump really wants or wanted was mayor. And if he wanted that, he can go run against Mamdani in New York for mayor. But the President of the United States should be focused on how we get our economy working, how we stop the starvation and killing in Gaza, how we stand up to Putin and not just have land be taken from Ukraine. And instead, he's not doing any of that. He's failing, and he's engaged in dangerous rhetoric and the criminalization of the streets. And by the way, it's hurting the economy. You talk to folks, because I've spent a lot of time in D.C. You talk to small businesses, they're having less foot traffic because of the national.
What I find to be fascinating about his statement there is that he believes it's President Trump with the dangerous rhetoric. He believes President Trump should not be busy trying to keep American cities safe. That's exactly what he is saying. Now, from our perspective here, and I'm sure you might agree with me here, all the things that he said President Trump should be focused on, he is focused on. He just met with Putin in person, something the prior president wasn't able to do, something Democrat leaders have not been able to do. So there's that. Secondly, it was under Democrat leadership where the cost of living hit an all-time record high. So when they try to push back on these arguments, they can't because they don't really have any credibility on the issue. Now, here is someone who does, the former governor of Illinois, and his reaction. Take a look.
I want to get your reaction. You know, how would you feel if you were still governor when you see what President Trump's doing in D.C., over 700 arrests, many guns taken off the street, violent criminals, some illegal aliens, quite a cleanup as a resident of D.C. Obviously, you know, we like seeing that sort of thing. How would Chicagoans feel about this?
Well, I think most Chicagoans have common sense, and most Chicagoans would welcome this. In fact, be excited and enthusiastic about it. The fact of the matter is Chicago is a very dangerous city. Crime is high here in Chicago. It's higher here than in New York. It's higher here than in Los Angeles. And here's a fact that's really chilling. Our mayor tries to say that homicides are down in Chicago. But the fact is that up to August the 16th, that's 233 days this year, 254 people have been murdered. So you can honestly say that when you get up every morning in Chicago, you can say to yourself, someone's going to be murdered today. And you can honestly say that in 8 out of 10 cases, 80% of those murder victims are going to be black. And what's very interesting about our liberal leaders like our Governor Pritzker, white, liberal, limousine, rich people who live in upscale neighborhoods, they would never tolerate this if this was happening in their neighborhoods. They wouldn't be decrying the National Guard. They'd be shouting for the National Guard and screaming for the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and the Air Force. It's hypocrisy, and there's a touch of racism in this. It's what Malcolm X said about white liberals, that they're foxes, and they kind of are friendly to the lamb, but they eat the lamb.
Okay, he was speaking some truth. Now, if we actually look at the Chicago Police Department's crime data here, we're already at 256 murders, as the former governor stated, and it's the 230th day of this year. So do the math. That means if we keep going at this rate, Chicago will end up with 385 murders by the end of this year. That would actually put them ahead of the amount that came in last year. So in that regard, crime is not down. And overall, the crime is not down. Okay, you can always argue, hey, crime's been down for the last 2 years. Yeah, but what about the last 10 years? Crime is up. It's crazy. And that's how they manipulate people into believing, oh, we don't really have a crime issue. Okay, so on to our next story of the day. This is breaking news. Abrego Garcia might be deported to Uganda, according to DHS, because he refused to accept their offer regarding his case. Now, remember, he was brought back to America because they wanted to charge him with human smuggling. This came from him getting pulled over in Tennessee, where he had all those illegal aliens in the back. But because it was under the Biden administration, he was never really held accountable. Well, accountability is here, and he refused to take it. So now they have issued this threat. And so let's hear more on that and the reactions. Take a listen.
The man, dubbed the Maryland Dad, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, could be headed to Uganda. The Salvadoran illegal immigrant was released from jail yesterday. He faces charges of human smuggling. His case, you might remember, made headlines when he was deported to El Salvador on suspicion of being an MS-13 gang member, only to be brought back after arguing his removal was illegal. Well, now ICE appears to have another plan. Rebecca Castor has the latest on that.
ICE sources tell Fox they plan to deport Abrego Garcia to Uganda in a matter of days. And we've learned it's after he denied another offer from the federal government. He walked out of a Tennessee jail yesterday after court documents reveal he decided not to take a deal that would require him to plead guilty to human smuggling charges, but then allow him to be deported to Costa Rica after his sentence. Now he's been threatened with removal to Uganda, arguably a less desirable option, and has to report to immigration authorities on Monday.
Now, this has become controversial once again because the judge released him back onto the streets. He is staying with his brother. And here's what Secretary Kristi Noem had to say. Activist liberal judges have attempted to obstruct our law enforcement every step of the way in removing the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens from our country. Today, we reached a new low with this publicity-hungry Maryland judge mandating this illegal alien who is an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, serial domestic abuser, and child predator be allowed free. By ordering this monster loose on America's streets, this judge has shown a complete disregard for the safety of the American people. We will not stop fighting until the Salvadorian man faces justice and is out of our country. Now, let's make sure you guys understand what his options are that DHS presented to him. Take a listen.
Just to give everyone an update is what we talked about last hour. Basically, the government is giving Kilmer Abrego Garcia two options. One, to be found guilty, to plead guilty to 2 charges of human smuggling in the criminal case in Tennessee, then to serve that sentence here in the U.S. and be deported to Costa Rica, or to go into ICE custody immediately starting Monday or Tuesday, and then be sent to Uganda. Those are the 2 options. We just heard from his Maryland attorney, Simon Sandoval-Moshenberg, outside of his brother's house in Maryland. It does seem like they are leaning towards the Costa Rica option. Here's what he had to say.
The government designated Uganda as the country of removal. It is preposterous that they would send him to Africa, to a country where he doesn't even speak the language, a country with documented human rights violations, when there are so many other options. This family suffered enough. They need to stop trying to separate them. Everything that they've done to Mr. Abrego Garcia, they've done it for one reason, which is that he had the temerity to exercise his constitutional rights.
So his attorney goes on to say there that Costa Rica makes sense because it's a Spanish-speaking country. It's closer to the United States, and his family would be able to visit him there, where he would be able to be free in Costa Rica, according to Costa Rican government officials. Now, regardless of which one he chooses, he does have to go to the ICE office in Baltimore on Monday morning to essentially turn himself in. We don't expect he would be walking out of that ICE office a free man. We expect he'd be walking out of that ICE office in ICE custody and have to make a decision from there, Alex.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is, because it's easy to lose sight of this particular fact, Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien. Abrego Garcia is a criminal illegal alien. Technically, he did commit crimes while he was in our country. It is a fact that the administration mistakenly deported him based on the fact that there was an order that said he shouldn't be deported to El Salvador. Fine, give the liberals that. It doesn't matter in the end because the fact still remains he should not be in our country and he will be deported. And so we'll see where this goes from here. So our other big update is about Alligator Alcatraz, the federal detention facility in the state of Florida. A judge that was appointed by former President Obama has ruled that this place has to be shut down within the next 60 days. Yes, you heard me correctly. And just wait till you hear the reasons why that is. Take a listen.
A federal judge in Florida late last night, who's appointed by Obama, moved to try to basically shut down Alligator Alcatraz, at least the expansion of it, forcing them to stop bringing in new detainees, removing all generators, gas, sewage, other waste, and waste receptacles that were installed along with lighting. Basically, this judge is making it impossible to operate. Kathleen White is the judge's name, trying to hang her opinion on Indian lands, access, environmental concerns. But all we really know about this is it's going to stop, Trump from getting people deported more efficiently and more quickly. Do you think this judge's ruling will be reversed?
I do not think it will. I think it will be reversed, and also it won't stop the Trump administration from doing something. But I think a couple of things that are really important here. This lawsuit was brought by like an environmental group and an Indian group, like you said, like a group to save the Everglades. Well, nothing really changed here. This was a state airport, and they converted it to a detention center, and now they're saying it's federal, and somehow because it becomes federal, that somehow is harmful to panthers and storks. The difference between state and federal, it's utter nonsense. If it was fine for the panthers and storks when it was an airport under state control, it's certainly fine for them now.
Yeah, it's just fascinating how they come up with these reasons to try to shut down this facility. We knew this was coming. I'm surprised it took them this long, to be honest. But here is the Attorney General for the state of Florida. Surprising to no one, Judge Williams, an Obama appointee, ruled against us and is attempting to close Alligator Alcatraz. Our appeal was ready to go and was filed within hours of her unlawful ruling. Alligator Alcatraz remains operational, and we will not stop in our mission to detain, deport, and deliver for the American people. Now, what's fascinating, this is the attitude also of the governor. He's not stopping. Take a listen.
I just wanted to just say this was not something that was unexpected. This is a judge that was not going to give us a fair shake. This was preordained. Very much an activist judge that is trying to do policy from the bench. This is not going to deter us. We're going to continue working on the deportations, advancing that mission. We knew that this would be something that would likely happen, and we will respond accordingly. That have already been ordered to be removed by the current system, and yet the previous administration didn't want to do anything about it. We're now in this position where we're leading the state efforts to help the Trump administration actually enforce the law and actually remove these illegal aliens from not just Florida, but from our country. And that's something that we didn't have for 4 years. And now that's something that we're absolutely on board with making sure happens going forward. And so we're not going to be deterred. We're totally in the right on this. But I would also note, because of the success of Alligator Alcatraz, there's demand for more. So I did announce that we are going to be opening another facility right outside of Jacksonville in Baker County, and we've called that the Deportation Depot.
Okay, so essentially the governor is not going to stop. He's got other detention facilities that will be opening up in his state. And here's the other thing, too. This lawsuit is based on environmental reasons. So even if they are successful in all this, which we're about to show you a clip here of one of the plaintiffs that were involved in this lawsuit, doesn't really matter. It's not going to stop Florida from being a part of the solution. Now, CNN, who does this very well, they bring on people who they know are always going to oppose what President Trump is doing. And that's what they did with this particular lawsuit. Take a look.
Eve Samples, the executive director of Friends of the Everglades, one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, joins me now. Eve, thank you so much for your time and for being on the show.
Thank you.
Eve, Friends of the Everglades was founded back in 1969 to stop the construction of a major airport near the Everglades National Park. Your group was successful then, and now more than 50 years later, another environmental victory on this very same site where the makeshift detention center now sits. What do you make of this full circle moment?
It's really a remarkable moment for us. We were founded by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who crusaded for the creation of Everglades National Park, and in 1969 created Friends of the Everglades to prevent a massive airport from being built at this very site. That opposition triggered, interestingly, an environmental impact report that led to a different course of action. So that project was halted after a single runway was built out there, and that is the runway that exists today. And before mid-June, it was a lightly used training runway until this mass detention center was built. So what we heard from the court this past Thursday in an 82-page ruling really spoke to our origin story, spoke to our passion about protecting the Everglades, and also reflects that the government has to follow the environmental rule of law. And when our government leaders don't do that, they have to be held accountable, and they can be. So we're hopeful. This is a preliminary injunction, more work to do here. The state has already appealed, but we're very hopeful and encouraged in this moment.
They can get this place shut down eventually, because environmental reasons definitely are impactful and influential in the court system today. We know this to be true. And this organization has been successful in the past, as you heard. But here's the bottom line. Even if they were able to shut down this facility, they'll just build another one. So it really doesn't matter even if they are successful in this, yeah, they'll probably slow down what's happening in Florida. But again, they'll just build another one. And so you're not going to stop detention facilities from being built in this country, which is what Democrats want. It just isn't going to happen under this Trump administration. All right, so let's hear from you guys in the comment section below to these stories. Number one, what is your response to this detention facility potentially getting shut down? This ruling came from a judge who was appointed by former President Obama. Do you buy the reasoning for environmental reasons? Also, what do you think of Abrego Garcia potentially being deported to Uganda? He turned down the offer that DHS offered him to plead guilty in the crimes that he did commit as an illegal alien in our country. And finally, what are your thoughts about President Trump potentially sending National Guard troops to Chicago and other cities across the country? Do you believe it's needed? Do you believe it's constitutional? And do you believe it's going to help make American cities safe again? Just give me your thoughts and everything in the comments section below. All right, so in our next video, John Bolton's world got blown up yesterday as the FBI raided his home and his office. Now, this comes because he wrote a book about the first Trump administration, and the only way he was able to write that book is because he used classified information to do so. So if you guys are interested in that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.